What you're looking at here is the only EV currently available from TVS today. It's called the iQube and it's a scooter that you really should be paying attention to.
Looks like an ordinary petrol-powered scooter, doesn't it? Well, it feels and rides like one. But before we get to that, let me tell you that this is the second time the TVS iQube has made it to the Autocar India channel, which you should subscribe to if you haven't already. Its first appearance on the channel was over a year ago when we experienced it at TVS's test track. And even though it's not on sale in Mumbai at the moment, we've got our hands on it to put it through a full road test. It couldn't have come at a better time because TVS has just announced that it's going to launch it in 20 cities by March next year.
What you'll notice instantly is how at home you'll feel on the iQube. The floorboard is spacious and not too high, the handlebar isn't too low, and the seat feels just right. While that may not sound like a big deal, many China-sourced electric scooters are having trouble getting the ergonomics right. That's not all. The suspension on the iQube is clearly tuned for comfort. The ride quality at low speeds is the best we've come across on any electric scooter so far, and while it's not bad at higher speeds, the soft telescopic fork does bottom out when hitting sharper bumps. As far as handling is concerned, turning the handlebar takes a little more effort than most petrol scooters and even some of its electric rivals, but it's not to the point of being problematic. Thankfully, the plush ride hasn't come at the expense of dynamics, and while it might not cut through city traffic as easily as some lighter scooters, the iQube still remains planted in the corners without feeling nervous or twitchy. The grippy TVS tires on the 12-inch wheels also do a rather good job.
TVS knows a thing or two about making performance-oriented machines, but that wasn't the aim here. That being said, the iQube is no slouch and the Bosch-made motor delivers instant acceleration.
With a 0 to 60 kph time of 8.58 seconds, there are only a handful of scooters that accelerate quicker than the iQube in India. This EV is even half a second faster than the company's BS6 N-Torque when it comes to acceleration. We also managed to get the iQube to show a speedo-indicated top speed of around 80 kph, which isn't as high as a 125cc petrol scooter, but more than you would ever need in the city. Switch from power to eco mode and the scooter limits the speed to around 48 kph while taking the real world range up to a very decent 74 km in our tests. While the initial acceleration isn't as eye-opening, the iQube starts to accelerate with urgency as speeds rise. What we also liked was that eco mode was perfectly usable in the city, unlike most Chinese EVs that restrict the speed too much in this mode. Unlike every other electric vehicle we've experienced with a hub-mounted motor, the iQube thankfully doesn't disable the accelerator when the brakes are applied. This makes it much easier and more natural feeling to ride in heavy traffic conditions. However, something that does feel a little less natural than a petrol-powered scooter is the aggressive regenerative braking system. When it kicks in as you go off the throttle, it will slow down the scooter to a standstill, even if you're going downhill. You do eventually get used to it and end up using it like brakes, but it would have been nice if it was a little less intense. The brakes themselves are adequate, and while there is no ABS, the CBS system works well. Overall, the iQube's riding experience stands at quite an impressive level.
Something that doesn't stand out as much is the scooter's styling. TVS has opted for a safe and conventional design that will appeal to everyone in the family.
The iQube has been around for a while and everyone knows that it looks a little too simple. The wraparound LED headlight and taillight does add a uniqueness to the scooter's styling, but other than that, it's very basic. That being said, the highest selling scooters in India, like the Honda Activa, the Suzuki Access and the TVS Jupiter, have also taken a similar family-friendly approach. What sets the iQube apart from these scooters I mentioned earlier is the TFT display. This unit comes with its own app that enables smartphone connectivity. With this, it displays turn-by-turn navigation, call and SMS alerts, trip information, and more. This display works well and is almost unbelievable to have at this price point.
One question that's often left unanswered is how much money you'd actually end up saving if you opted for one of these over a comparable petrol-powered scooter. To answer that question, let's head to the Autocar India office. Alright, so here's what it looks like.
What we've done is we've compared the TVS iQube to the TVS Jupiter ZX disc. Since both get disc brakes, it's only fair that we compare these two. Thanks to a recent FAME 2 subsidy increase, the TVS iQube now costs Rs 1,10,000 on-road Bengaluru. It was earlier priced at around 120, but it has gone down by 11,250. These are approximate figures, just to make it simpler. The Jupiter costs 96,000 on-road. So the price is out of the way. Now let's move on to the consumption. So in the case of the iQube, we've considered the range. So the average range is around 61 kilometers and the Jupiter's average fuel consumption is 54 kpl. The cost of electricity, this is also a rough estimate. It depends on multiple things like the region you are in and how much electricity you consume. So what we've done is we've taken 7.5 rupees per unit. And petrol is obviously now around rupees 100 per litre. The cost to fully charge the iQube is rupees 18.75 because it takes around 2.5 units to charge it. 1 unit is equal to 1 kilowatt hour. Coming to the cost per kilometer, this is an important figure. It's rupees 0.30 per kilometer on the iQube and rupees 1.8 per kilometer on the Jupiter. What this means is after you cover 10,000 kilometers, it will cost you rupees 3,000 on the iQube and 18,000 on the Jupiter. However, once you cover 50,000 kilometers, you would spend 15,000 rupees on the iQube and 90,000 rupees on the Jupiter. What this means is that after you cover 50,000 kilometers, you're essentially saving rupees 75,000, which is a lot. Another interesting fact is the break-even point. This is when you cover the additional amount you spent for the iQube. So in this case, it's rupees 14,000 that you're spending more for the iQube, and if you divide that by the difference in per kilometer cost, which is 1.5 rupees per kilometer, it comes to 9,333 kilometers. What this means is when you're on your iQube, when you've covered 9,333 kilometers, that's when you've saved the additional amount you've spent. Bear in mind, the savings we calculated were purely based on the fuel and electricity consumption. One also has to factor maintenance costs. The petrol-powered scooter would require more frequent service center visits for scheduled services, with more expenses for things like engine oil and various filters. With EVs, all you'd have to worry about are consumables like tires and brake pads. Of course, the iQube's big expense would be a battery replacement down the line, but TVS is offering a 3-year 50,000 km warranty that should be reassuring for most customers. In terms of running costs, the iQube will be far cheaper, and let's not forget the favor you'd be doing to our environment. With the latest FAME 2 subsidy increase, the iQube now costs much closer to 125cc scooters. In fact, in Delhi, where there is an additional subsidy available, the price gap has come down significantly and now not so far from petrol-powered scooters. That makes this the first high-quality two-wheeler electric vehicle in India, which is a legitimate rival to established petrol-powered scooters. The only issue is availability, and with this juicy new price, TVS really has to work on getting the iQube into more dealerships.
All TVS has to do now is launch the iQube in more cities and try not to increase the price. Right now, it costs significantly less than its direct rivals from Bajaj and Ather, while not being far behind as an overall package. In fact, it's better in some ways. TVS, the ball is in your court now.